PC, start recording.
I'm sorry, Chase. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Oh, shit. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of From Screen to Shelf. I am here with my partner in crime, Chase, and we are here to do a quick retrospect review on 2001, A Space Odyssey, Stanley Kubrick's classic. This was kind of like a last-minute thing that we decided to record just because I saw it last night theatrically. It was the first time I actually saw this movie in theaters. I've seen it on Blu-ray multiple times, but I've never seen it in the cinema. So, have you seen it in the cinema, Chase?
No, I actually never had
Never?
the chance to. No,
Oh, okay.
I
It
missed
was
the film reel screening. And actually, because you said you just went and recently saw it, was it film
Mhm.
or was it a
I
DCP?
wish, man. It was DCP.
Okay.
I wish
Okay.
it was on film. It was the 4K restoration though, so that was cool to see, but it was on DCP.
Okay.
If it ever came on film, I'd see it again in a heartbeat. That's like
Cancel all
honestly one of
plans.
my cancel all plans. That's like one of my top 5 movies I want to see on film. Like
Yeah.
Exorcist, 2001 are in my top 5 for sure. And I can't believe that you missed a
Yeah.
35 millimeter screening of freaking Space Odyssey. Like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah. Or it's 70, right? Because
Oh
the
yeah, it's on
4K was
70.
because it was finished in
Yeah.
8K and then downsampled to 4K. Which actually that was gonna be my next thing before we go into our foray of questions and retrospect.
Mhm.
How did it compare to your at-home viewing since you have a similar copy versus being there? Because it
It
wasn't
looked
Dolby, right?
really it wasn't Dolby, no. This is the theater I went to, it's a local cinema that's kind of like an art house cinema. They just play kind of like classic movies throughout the month. So yeah, it's not Dolby by any stretch. It's just a standard cinema, but
Yeah.
it looked really, really good. You definitely see the same kind of like color grading and everything, the same thing as the 4K.
Okay.
Because I always use that tunnel scene, like when he's walking through the tunnel, is kind of like my
Like
reference
our
point in
background?
terms of
Yeah.
yeah. So like that's kind of what I use as a reference point. But I mean, the colors look solid, and just dude, this movie, and we'll get into it. It's just it's crazy how good this movie looks. Like it
Stands the
was this
test of time.
1968, right?
Yeah, before we
I
even
think.
landed on the moon, let's preface that.
No way. Oh, I didn't know
Yep.
that.
Before we
That is
ever landed on the moon,
insane.
this movie was filmed, and the way, because of course Arthur Clarke, he worked for NASA, the author. So
Oh, did
the
he?
collaborator, he was writing the book side by side while Stanley Kubrick was filming, and so they tried to make the book and the movie have some differences, right? Just to kind of
Wow.
preface that, and the way that they got everything so accurate before we were on the moon. That is
That's mind-boggling. I
crazy.
did not know that fact till you told. I wish I had
Yeah.
known like yesterday before I went to see it again. Just that is mind-boggling, dude. Because
Yep.
how accurate some of it is in terms of just
Mhm.
like and I know, I mean, obviously it's not 100% accurate, but just like the space walking and like when they're in the crater going down, like it looks so fucking good.
Yeah,
It
it looks
looks
so
so
good.
good. And this movie, yeah, so like this movie, like you said, it stands the test of time. I just want to do a retrospect on it just because it's one of those movies I feel like every time you watch it, you kind of come away with like a different experience with it.
Mhm.
It's one I watch like every few years, and like every time I see it, I have a different experience with it than the last time I saw it. So I thought it'd be cool just to do a retrospect. When was the first time you saw it?
Actually, around the time the 4K came out, 'cause I've been collecting 4K
Oh,
since around the dawn of the 4K period, right?
yeah.
That came out, and I just kinda heard about it. I was like, "Eh," and older sci I love at this time, this was before I forayed fully into older sci-fi. I loved some older sci-fi before my love and adoration for it is what it is now. 2001 definitely helped elevate that, but I got it around release date, and I just remember the way that that looked on my TV. The colors, like, we'll go in like order of events, but like the Dawn of Man scene with the
Yeah.
monkeys, with the apes, the part where the orchestral starts playing and he figures out how to use weapons, because that's
Mhm.
part of where the monolith is kind of evolving them, right?
Yeah.
Because they didn't kill for food up until this scene, and then he's like taking the bone and smashing the skull,
Mhm.
and it just that my jaw dropped, man. Like, it was so good.
It's so gorgeous
Uh,
to look at, dude.
Man, you could see the grains of sand Like,
Yeah, that's mind blowing. The same, dude. Literally, when I saw it in the theater, I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, how is this? Just when he has like the shots of the landscape before you see the
yep,
apes, I'm like, how is this 1968, dude? Like, literally, it looks
yeah,
like it was filmed like maybe 2 years ago.
yep.
And I think
Looks really good.
that's why that's why I always try to advocate for like using film whenever a director can, just because I feel like it's so timeless, dude. It just looks so freaking pristine. And like you
Yeah,
said, when you start seeing the apes and everything like that, you can see like strands of their hair,
yeah.
and it's just so freaking detailed
Creases
and
on the
beautiful.
lips.
Yeah, man, it's just so great to look at, and I don't know. I don't know how they did it, because I mean, you see other movies from, like, the 1960s, and they just don't look as clean as 2001, but
Mhm.
this movie literally looks like it, even, like, when we kind of going in order of events, like, when you start the hallway scene with the floating pen, and I'm like, "Dude, that looks like it was filmed today." Like, it
Yeah.
looks incredible, and it's such a fun movie to go back to, just to see, like, this is 1968, and it looks pristine, but also just the uniqueness of the story, dude. I feel like it's one of those movies. I feel like it's just so timeless just because of how unique it is, that you start with, like, the dawn of man, and you're kind of like, what is this movie about? Because you're with
Yeah.
those apes
Monkeys for
for
20 minutes or so.
20 minutes, and we didn't even talk about the 5 minutes of just like black screen with the music playing, and you're like, what is going on?
Yeah.
But yeah, and then you're like all of a sudden on this space station, and the monolith, and you're like, what the heck is going on with this story? You really have no idea, you as an audience member, where the story's going. You've read the books. So I don't
Yeah.
know, like, if is it pretty close to the book, at least to 2001?
So there's some minor differences. So like Stanley Kubrick leaves everything very ambiguous to be intentionally meant to be watched multiple times, right?
Mhm.
That's how he liked to do a lot of things, right? Like even The Shining. For you to understand that The Shining from a first watch, unless you're a very critical listener and viewer, I
Mhm.
feel like that's still a movie that needs a couple of viewings. The book has very slight differences, but explains so much more.
Gotcha.
It pretty much tells you what the monoliths do, pretty much off the
Oh,
bat while
okay.
you're trying to figure it out. The biggest difference is everything is set on Saturn instead of Jupiter, leaning towards the end.
Mm.
And the biggest reason they went for Jupiter is because it was cheaper to make a model of it. Uh, that's the only
Enjoy,
reason.
yeah, because you don't have to deal with the rings, right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So to get the glisten of the rings because of how accurate they were trying to go for everything with such a low budget. This was not a high budget movie at the time, and it
Which is
didn't really get a
mind-boggling too,
and it took
'cause
months to gain wind too. The history of this movie, it took 4 or 5 months until and this isn't to categorize anybody, but literally you can go and read like a history of this movie. It's whenever like during the psychedelic era of like America, people would just go and trip and watch 2001: A Space Odyssey
oh, I'm
because,
sure.
the
They're all
hippies
waiting
were
for the
yeah.
last third of the movie pretty much.
Yeah. Whoa, like,
Yeah.
just getting into it, and then the ending, the ending that everybody's like, "What the fuck did I just watch?" It explains it pretty much to a T outside of the last maybe 5 seconds in the
Okay.
movie. It leaves it a
So
little bit more ambiguous in the book, but explains it as things go on.
okay,
Um,
yeah. And
that's why some
Kubrick
people don't
does
like
that
reading
though.
it.
He does that with every, because a lot of his movies are based off of books. Like we were
Yep.
talking about, like Full Metal Jacket, that one podcast, and Shining and everything like that. He does kind of like try to twist it and make it his own in a weird way.
Yep.
But I mean, I think honestly, I love the kind of ambiguity in this movie, just because it keeps you guessing the whole time. You're like, where is this going? What's going on? Like, and as soon as you get to the space station where they land on the moon and they're touching the monolith, you're just kind of like left with this like sense of intrigue. And then as soon as you have that intrigue, you're jumping into another plot with like the HAL 9000, which is my favorite part of the movie. I think that's
Mhm.
probably most people's favorite part of the movie, is just the space station with the HAL
Of him just
9000.
yeah.
Dude, the shots in this movie are so freaking well done. Like,
Yeah.
I need to watch, and this is my fault. I've never watched like a behind the scenes of how they do some of these shots, because some of these shots where she's taking the tray and she's like walking up the little circular thing, you know what I mean? She's upside
Mhm.
down, or when he's like climbing the ladder, and or when he's like running around in circles doing the jogging thing. I'm like, I have no idea how they did those shots.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's probably some like rotating kind of hallway kind of thing or something like that. I have no idea. I need to watch the special features, but just the way he's like framed these shots, it's like every shot is like a frame of art that
Yep.
you could literally
Agreed.
just like screen capture and just like freaking hang on your shelf.
Yeah. No,
Um,
for real.
It's so fucking cool to look at, dude. And then, like, when we get to the whole HAL 9000 bit, I think that's probably everyone's favorite part of the movie. And honestly, dude, it's kind of creepy because especially now with the AI stuff that's going
Mhm.
on, I
Yeah.
had a different take watching it. Like I definitely had like a different kind of experience watching this movie just because of the whole GPT and all the stuff that other revelations we've had with AI recently. And it's kind of it almost left me a little bit more frightened watching it. I was kind
Mhm.
of like, this shit can actually happen, and it's kind of it's I think that's what's so cool about this movie is that as time pushes on, we're kind of moving closer to 2001 in a way
Yeah.
as a species. So I think that that's why this film is just so freaking powerful to me. It's just because like you get a different experience every time you're watching it, and and this time I was definitely left a little bit more frightened
Yeah.
with the whole
And we
HAL
have to
9000
shout
thing.
out the most important aspect of it is it has the first ever FaceTime call on a film.
Yes, it does on iPads, bro. Those are pretty much iPads.
Yeah. Like
They're
on the headrests and
iPads.
stuff like that, just
Yeah,
embedded
or like
into the
when they're eating on the spaceship and they're just like what like it's on the table and they're just watching the news.
yeah.
They're iPads. Like
Yeah.
it's mind-boggling, and I don't know like if it's I always wonder like if it's people that have watched this movie that like it resonated with them and that kind of influenced the iPad, or if it's like like the other way around. I don't know, but like it's interesting seeing like I said like how we inch closer to 2001.
Mhm.
Like we have iPads now, like you said, the first FaceTime call of mankind. Like it's it's interesting, dude. And it's but it's scary at the same time. And this time it kind of left me a little bit unnerved in terms of like where we're going as a species. I don't know why
Yeah.
it left me kind of disturbed. Um, but I mean, what like when you kind of reflect on it, because I don't know the last time that you saw it was. Was it on
Couple
the
weeks ago.
4K? Oh, a couple of
Yeah.
weeks ago?
I watch it at
Oh,
least once a month.
no way.
I love this,
Damn,
dude.
dude.
It depends on what I'm in the mood for, but it's either
Yeah.
2001 or Mad Max Fury Road is my favorite movie of all time by a mile. Like, it's not even close
Interesting.
between second, and I can't pick, like, I can't put one or the other. They're both my favorite movies of all time.
See, I
But yeah.
can't. I don't know if I can do that. Like to me, it's kind of like this experience I go back to like every 2 years.
Yeah.
Like I don't. It's not one that I pop in and I'm like, just watch it. Like it's something I have to kind of sit down and kind of absorb and just kind of
Mhm.
wash over me because it's really it's hard even telling people what this movie is. Like I
For
don't know if you've
sure.
recommended it to people and then they come back to you and they're like, "What the hell did I just watch?"
I just tell them it's about the evolution of man.
Oh, that's a good way to describe it. See, I'm
Yeah, it's
like,
just
dude, I'm
about
like, just
yeah.
watch it and have fun because I can't describe this movie. I really can't. That's a good
Yeah.
synopsis for it.
Yeah,
Um,
because that's one sentence, and from the moment that it opens up, you won't be surprised by seeing the monkeys in, like a Sahara setting, like, like a very dry landscape. You won't be surprised by anything that's happening in there. So, also at the
mhm.
same time, by me telling you that, you'll be able to embrace the ending and how it happens. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
the
Because of the
weird ambiguous
evolution,
ending.
and if I wanted to go further past what we know as where we've evolved today, you know?
Yeah,
But also, what, almost 60 years old at this point?
that's
In five fifty
mind-boggling to
five
me.
years this year? That's
Yeah,
crazy. Or 55
it's
last year. Yeah.
it's crazy, but I think it does, I think it stands the test of time just because of not only the ambiguity, but just because, like, yeah, as a species, we are kind of pushing closer to those stages of evolution, right? Like, it's like we are getting to the point where we might have. I mean, there's people going to space now just for freaking recreation. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you and I probably won't see it, but yeah, there's probably going to be people that go to the moon just to go to the moon. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And it's kind of scary how close we're getting to 2001 and that ending. It's just it's at least to me one of the most iconic endings in film that I've ever seen
Yeah.
because it's just so
I mean,
I
we can
don't
go
know
into
how to
spoilers
describe it.
because, I mean
Yeah,
the
no,
movie's
I
been
mean
out for, like
yeah, I mean, like, when he's in the human zoo pretty much, I mean, like, he's in this
yeah.
kind of, like, room filled with, like, French architecture, and he has no sense of space-time pretty much. Like, he
Yeah.
sees himself older, you know what I mean? And his older self sees himself older dying in a bed, and it's like he doesn't have any sense of how long he's been there, but he's been there for his whole life pretty much. And then
Yep.
he kind of I don't want to say like reincarnates, or he's like reborn into this,
He
I don't
evolves
know,
past what we know
past.
as
Yeah.
age.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. That's a good way
into
to put
something
it.
new. Yeah,
A giant
he
baby.
reborn. Yeah, essentially a giant space
The
baby.
giant freaking baby. Yeah.
Like the head from Rick and Morty, the equivalent of that. He just
They
starts looking at space or
That is a
Earth
weird
from
looking
above.
baby though. Like every time I see
Yeah.
it, I'm like, that's a weird. The eyes look freaking trippy as hell, dude.
It's the
And
weirdest looking part of the entire movie for sure. Everything else
it's
super well done, like the paint, because that was done with paint, right? When he's going through the monolith.
oh, that's paint?
That's fucking paint, dude.
No way.
That's fucking paint.
No freaking way.
Yep, underwater camera techniques with paint, slathered over and it just running through. Isn't that absolutely wild? And, like, multiple layers of,
Wow,
like
what the
some have
hell, dude?
celluloid fo dude, the
Maybe I'll
way there's
watch it
a
again next week. It's all
yeah.
this knowledge that you're dropping right now. It's gonna
Dude, it's wild,
wow.
man. Like, it really is. Because on the 4K, they have a behind the scenes featurette that goes into that specifically as well, and it's really oh, man, when I found that out, it elevated it for me because, there's some people that when magic gets taken away,
Mhm.
they don't like it, right? Like, some
Yeah,
people
like you
finding
kind
that
of
out
ruined
yeah, like,
the
"Oh,
yeah.
now all I see is paint." No, but that's so cool because
No,
now
dude, that's
you still gotta understand how the fuck they did it.
yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's kind of like how
You
I
know?
felt with Oppenheimer, because that movie's
Yeah.
all practical, and like when you have the scenes of the freaking the atoms whirling around, like that's all practical effects, and I'm like, that's freaking crazy to me. I love they put
Mhm,
that in there, and it makes you appreciate it more. And the same thing with 2001.
mhm.
Now you've told me it's just freaking paint. The whole like that's mind boggling. I thought it was some old school computer. I don't know. I mean, they didn't have computers back then that could do it. I guess I didn't even think about that. But it looks like
Yeah,
an old school, like 80s kind of computer. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
um, but yeah, I gotta watch it again now, man. Because
yeah,
when you told me like this is going to the moon, like that was paint. And
yeah.
even when I was watching it, I always remind myself like this is even before Star Wars, because Star Wars was like
Yep,
1977, I think it was.
yep,
And dude, and the effects look better than Star Wars, in my
yeah,
opinion. Like it's just crazy, dude. And I love the ending of the movie. Every time I see the ending, it's just this cool, just with the music and the ambiguity of it, and just cuts to black, and you're kind of like what does this mean? And just to kind of end it on this, maybe I was watching it, and behind me was this dad with his kid. He's like 11 years old, and you could tell
mhm.
like he's taking his kid the first time to see 2001.
Oh,
And
that must've been
he's
fucking awesome.
it was cool, dude. I was hearing their little conversations, like right when Hal's like killing off the crew. Like the dad's
Mhm.
like, "Look at the vital signs," and the kid's like, "Oh my god, is he killing it?" Like you hear this dot,
He's
but
coaching
like
him through it. Yeah,
yeah, and then like at the end, the kid's like, what does that mean? Like, what's the baby? And the dad's like kind of just insinuating. It's like, well, what does it mean to you? And they're just having a cool conversation, and I'm like,
that must've been awesome to hear, man.
that's yeah, like that's a cool insight of like what this movie does like for every
Yeah,
generation, right? And I'm hoping, if I ever have kids, I can take them, if movie theaters still freaking exist by then, like you take them to this movie and
yeah,
just let them have their own experience with it. And I think that's what the majesty of this movie is. It's just everyone has their own freaking experience with it. And it's
mhm.
just gold, dude. I mean, let me ask you this. I'm gonna ask you a fun question because we're,
Go
we're
for it.
almost wrapping up here. Is there any critique with this movie that you would change? Is there anything that you would maybe change with this movie? Nothing.
Nope. Um, the only thing is, like, knowing what could have been in there, from some certain behind the scenes, the only thing I would change is give them more money. You know? That would
Give
be
them more
it.
money to do what they want to
Yeah.
do.
Exactly, because the movie was gonna have a lot more like, what we're mind blown about, dude, what they had other props built, they just literally ran out of funding by a certain point in the movie, and they couldn't do
That's
as much as they
crazy.
wanted to, so they had to improvise, which sometimes that's a beautiful problem to have, like,
Yeah,
certain
because 'cause you're
filmmakers will go and
squeezing
say
more
that.
out of the resources that you have.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
get all these creative minds, you get so much juice flowing versus just spending money and doing it the easy way, right?
Yeah.
Which I'm not saying that was the case with this, but in modern times, that's kind of what we see. But that would have
Mhm.
been the thing, throw them, dude, even 50 grand more was a lot back then, 100,000 more.
Yeah.
What
They
we
could have
could
done
have
something.
gotten, I mean, there's nothing, man. To me, this is a perfect movie from front to back. Like, I can understand the crowd that says it's boring. I definitely understand that. It's not for absolutely everybody.
Mhm.
But still at the same exact time, I find it to be timeless. This is a movie that 55 more years from now, This will never be lost. This will be shared for generations. I'm surprised that it's one of his lesser known and appreciated films out of his filmography. That'd be a
Really?
status change
I
I'd
feel
give.
like it's
Yeah,
like pretty
it's
popular. I don't know.
popular, but it's not Full Metal Jacket or The Shining. You know what I mean? Like, it's not with those ones, is what I'd say. Like, some people have seen 2001: A Space Odyssey, or they may know of it, but not as many people have
Mhm.
seen it as those two. You know what I'm saying? It's not like Killer's Kiss or The Killing, where those are like, maybe even me just saying those right now, some people might be like, "What is that?" Paths of Glory, what is that? You know what I mean? Like certain things like that, or even Doctor Strangelove. I mean, Doctor
Yeah.
Strangelove is lesser known, but that's still up there with 2001 as one of my favorite movies of all time. That movie's
Mhm.
great. But yeah, I think Kubrick's a genius. I rest in peace. I wish he was still here with us, because the things that he could have done, like that movie AI that he was going to put out, that Steven Spielberg ended up doing, just
Giving
wild.
me nightmares by now.
Yeah, yeah, like it's just crazy, man. Like the the man just did so much. Even going back to Spartacus, seeing what he did in
Yeah,
Spartacus,
Spartacus is great. He's
great
a unique
movie,
talent, dude. He's
one of a kind.
just yeah, every movie that he released was just so unique. And this
Yep.
one, I wouldn't change anything. Like I wouldn't my only if I had to give a critique, if someone said you had to give a critique of this movie, it's like there are just some shots that just last way too long. Like when that
No,
ship
for sure.
lands on the crater and it's like going down the thing and
Agreed.
it's
I can
like,
see that.
a minute and a half later it's still and I'm like,
Okay,
I'm
I
in
guess,
awe of the
yeah,
beauty of it, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like it's beautiful to look at, but I'm like, holy shit, it's like a minute and a half and this thing is still going down.
You're like, "Pee break, let's go."
Yeah, I know, right? Like you come back, that
Yeah,
ship is still kind of going down, and there are some
yeah,
shots I think that are like kind of, but that's how Kubrick was. He was very self-indulgent. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like it was like he liked. It's like I'm gonna have this shot going for 3 minutes, and that's how I fucking want it, and you deal with it
Yeah.
if you don't like it, which I appreciate. You know what I mean? So like, I mean that'd be the only critique I have about this movie. There's some shots that like last way too long, but it's
I
just a
guess I would
classic,
change
dude.
one.
Which
Shorten
one?
that song at the beginning, that'd be it.
Oh, the where the black screen.
Yeah, and I get that's probably because previews weren't as common then. You know what I mean? That
Yeah,
was probably, roll time to get people, just like an intermission. Hey, get in your seat so you don't miss
but I
anything.
feel it's longer than the intermission was though, because I actually went to use the bathroom during the intermission in this movie, and then by the time I came back from the bathroom, like the movie had alreed started. I was like, "What the hell?"
You're
Like
like,
the
what intermission
intro was
is
like
this?"
longer, yeah, than
Yeah.
the intermission was. So I'm like,
Yeah.
it was a weird, yeah, it was a weird trade there. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, like it's nitpicking at that point. You know what I mean?
No,
I
for
think
sure,
like
that's finding
it's
something.
yeah, it's still a classic, and I wouldn't change anything about it overall. It's just one of those
Masterpiece.
movies. It's a masterpiece. It's never gonna, like you said, it's gonna stand the test of time. So it
Yep.
was cool seeing it theatrically. I'm hoping that they, do a 70 millimeter print somewhere so we could, watch and maybe review it then. I wouldn't mind doing a review of it like 3 years from now again, just to see like what's
Yep.
different. But that AI stuff, if you watch it again, dude, it's just it's really freaking scary.
Yeah. We'll turn into HAL 9000 by that point, hopefully.
Oh God. But yeah, we just wanted to drop a quick.
Daisy.
Oh, dude, that I can do a whole 10 minutes on that scene alone.
Dude,
That's my favorite scene of the movie, by the way.
yeah.
Is the him
It's great.
deactivating
He's
Hal.
unplugging him. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just the
just a
sound. It's genuinely terrifying.
well, the sound, but also the set design where it's just all red and it's like, he's
It
like
pops.
doing the pins and the little the white hard drives are popping. Like it's so freaking well done. It looks better than anything that's filmed today.
No, agree.
Like it's freaking a
Agreed.
masterpiece, dude. But yeah, we just wanted to drop a quick little retrospect on 2001 because we were talking about it together and thought it'd be cool to share ideas with you guys. So we appreciate you guys sticking around. We were just kind of babbling on about 2001, but if you guys got anything from this or you want to drop some comments, drop them down below. Hit the like button and hit that subscription bell if you guys have been watching our videos and you haven't subscribed yet.
Thank you guys so much for all your love and support. Until next time, this is from Screen to Shelf, signing out.
See you guys.